Awesome. Hello and welcome again to our newest episode of Finding Her Voice, a podcast about women who make film by women who love film. I'm kind of going to do this off the cuff because I've realized the last three episodes when I try to write myself a script, I tend to stumble over my words really embarrassingly to the point that you can tell I'm reading a script. So we're going to try it this way and see how it goes. I am once again joined by Editor-in-Chief Gabrielle Bondi and our fellow film, television, book writer, Alana Jane Chase. And this month we're going to be talking about the perilous age of being a teenage girl, and more specifically the relationships you have between other teenage girls. So we're going to be talking about the movie Girlhood by Celine Sciamma. Oh my god, I just butchered that name. And we've gone over this. I've had Gabby before in the episode, tell me how exactly I'm supposed to say that name. We're going to pretend it didn't happen. We're going to be talking about Girlhood from 2015, and our late edition in the month was Breathe by Melanie Laurent. You might know her from starring in Inglourious Basterds. I really wasn't familiar with anything other than Beginners, so seeing her direct this film was kind of mind-blowing to me. But before we get to those two films, which I'm hoping we have a lot of thoughts on, we're gonna start off with our question, which this month is: if you could choose any female filmmaker to direct your coming-of-age story, who would it be? And Gabby, I don't know if you want to start this one off.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so my female director hasn't directed a film, but she's a well-known TV director, and she's even more well-known for her choreography, and it's Debbie Allen. I chose her because she directs some of the most dramatic TV shows on TV. Um, it's very theatrical, a lot of her episodes. I mean, and plus her choreography background, taking that into account, that would be perfect to direct my coming-of-age story.
So,
I,
do you want a musical coming-of-age story?
yes, I do because I love to sing and I love dance and I know I come from this crazy multicultural family that is totally nuts, and I think just the whole drama of my family, teamed with music and dance and Debbie Allen's amazing directorial skills. Yeah, she'd be perfect.
And Alana, how about you?
I actually kind of did the same, where
Ah,
I didn't pick a film director. I picked someone who I'm sure we all know, and I hope that we all love, Mindy Kaling. She's been a director for a lot of stuff on The Office, and she's done writing and producing for her own show. And I think that the kind of the quirkiness and the uniqueness that she brings all of the comedic moments, in all of her directing and in her writing. I would be fine with her writing it, directing it, just taking full creative control. I love how bright everything is, in her world, and how she brings the humor and the heart to stuff that's even kind of difficult and painful.
yeah,
Team
that's a good
Mindy.
choice.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about going into TV, but now that I'm thinking about it, if I had to pick somebody who would write it, I'm forgetting her name, but it's whoever the Baby Cobra comedy special, the woman who writes for Fresh Off the Boat. She'd be
Ali
perfect.
Wong,
But
maybe?
hmm,
Is it Ali
Ali Wong.
Wong?
Yeah. If I had to pick somebody to write it, definitely be her. But for my director, I was kind of torn between my ideal coming of age story and the coming of age story I'd ultimately get. Ideally, Gina Prince Bythewood would be amazing because I'd get this epic romance that would transfix people. But realistically, I think it would be obvious child's director Gillian Robespierre because I definitely am more of a Jenny Slate than a Gugu Mbatha-Raw. you know, just in general, not that both are generally amazing goddess-like human beings who I adore, but I think I fall more in line with the wit and awkwardness of an obvious child character. and like getting angry at certain subjects. I just think that it falls more in line with who I am. So yeah, I thought Julia Ross here would be a pretty excellent female director to direct my story, whatever that story ends up being. But I'd be curious if people are listening, if they want to tweet maybe who they would pick. I'm trying to be more audience engaging. If we have an audience right now, that'd be great. I don't think we do. But for people who listen later, let us know who you would pick to be your director of your coming of age story. But on to the movies we watched this month, and I'm sorry I made you guys watch two. What did you guys think? We can talk about both in general. Was there one that you liked more? Gabby?
I watched them both, one right after the other, which was an experience. It was quite a Sunday evening for me.
Oh, and did you do it? What order did you end up doing it in?
I did what you suggested. I watched Girlhood first, which I really loved, and then I watched Breed, which I usually switch them because I went to bed so upset.
I know. It made me really anxious the first time I watched it.
I was just like, oh my God. It just brought up Breed especially brought up just so much of the kind of crap you deal with, when you're a teenager, especially with, other girls and in the way your relationships kind of fluctuate and change so much during those years. So yeah, I think both films did a great job telling two different stories and two different kinds of portraying two different kinds of female friendships. Um, and they're both well crafted. And it's kind of hard to because besides the fact that they deal with female friendship, they still feel like two different films, with different layers to that, because a lot of the topics in Girlhood aren't ones that really would apply to the topics in Girls and Breathe. So
yeah, definitely. Yeah, Alana, I'm curious to hear what you think too, because I watched both these movies a couple months ago, so I might have a different opinion than somebody who's watched it pretty fresh. Did you get to both of them?
I did, and I did the same order. I was all gung ho after Girlhood. I was like, I can do this. Breathe is gonna be so much fun. I'm gonna have a lot of thoughts about it.
Fun is the wrong word to describe.
And I was like, there might be moments that are great. If it's anything like Girlhood, I'm gonna love it. I'm gonna be moved. I'm gonna be affected. There's gonna be some painful moments. It was devastating. Devastating.
I know. It was really tough, right?
It was just so real. It was so, you're affronted with kind of everything that you felt as a teenage girl. And it's kind of creepy to watch because you're watching from a distance and a new perspective, looking back on something that you kind of realized, I've lived this. Maybe not to the extent that the girls in this film do, but you notice these things and you're like, wow, this really encapsulates these moments of toxicity in female friendships at this age. And I wonder why. I wonder why it's such a unique experience to girls of this age. It's universal.
Yeah. I think there's a universal pressure from all ends, and I've said it before, but I think one of the hardest things in the world is being a teenage girl, especially in that middle school age, which isn't what these girls were in the film, but I definitely think from 13 to 17 is generally hellish. Maybe just my experience, but at least internally. But yeah, I had generally similar reactions to you. I really adored Breathe, maybe in a kind of sick way because it was so devastating. But I loved both. I think Girlhood, I felt like I loved individual moments more, and there were moments I remembered far after I had watched them. Whereas Breathe, it was so atmospheric, and it kind of really sunk low into you, you really just felt it. Like you said, it was hard going to bed after seeing that film. So it kind of had a different effect to me, but both ended up in my, people wondering, they ended up in my top 10 of last year. I thought they were genuinely affecting films. And for anybody wondering, because I skipped the synopsis, like Tool, they're both similar. They have similar subject matters. You know, Girlhood is about a young woman dealing with a male dominated neighborhood and a male dominated house and finding this group of friends and how they kind of enlighten her and enliven her, and then how she has to escape a precarious situation at home, and you know how she deals with it. It's essentially a coming of age story, but it's really perilous, and it's a different version of a coming of age story, I think, than we've seen before. Whereas Breathe is very much a two-hander between two teenage girls, Charlie and Sarah, with Charlie being the lead and Sarah being this kind of uh, fixating young girl who she's just totally, I would say, even in love with. You know, like I think she's obsessed with her, but I don't. It's such a bizarre relationship in that film. I don't even know how to describe it. I probably should have. This is where I should have typed out a script for myself. But you know, both are coming of age films in very different ways. Breathe takes more of a thriller-esque approach, whereas Girlhood's kind of a slice of life. And both are on Netflix, so if you have the chance, you should definitely watch them. But yeah, I was very much moved in very different ways by both. But most specifically, in the scene that I've been dying to talk about with people is Diamonds in Girlhood, which I think by far is one of the top 5 best scenes in a film I've ever seen, and I'm curious to think what you think about it.
Oh yeah, I love it. I mean, I'm about to burst out singing it. I love it so
I
much.
know.
Um, yeah,
Singing all night.
shine. Okay, no, I won't. But yeah, I no, it's an amazing scene. I mean, I had seen it before on YouTube just because I
Okay.
heard so many people talk about it, so I knew that it was in the movie, and when I saw it, I was like, oh, I loved it because I think it's like one of those moments that you always want with your friends. Just that moments where you're just like singing and you're wearing new clothes and you're just like all dressed up, but you're not out yet. You're just you're with each other and you're just letting out and letting go, and it's
Yeah,
just
and they don't even go out is the
no,
big selling point to me. It's like they get dressed up just to hang out with each other, which
yeah,
I adored.
exactly. Because like sometimes like that's frankly the most fun part of the evening.
Yeah.
Definitely, definitely.
If I could end my evening there, I'm
Right,
typically happier than if I have to go
exactly.
out. But
Yeah.
that diamond scene to me just, I think, really summed up the teenage girl experience to me in like a 5 minute segment where it's just, and it's like the shots they get of the lead girl, um, just like her eyes closed, totally in the moment, loving everything. You know, it's the most unguarded we see of her in the entire film, which I think speaks volumes to how important that moment was to her as a character and to the film. And I think, you know, any movie that uses a Rihanna song to such poignancy gains points
Mhm.
immediately. But yeah, I thought the whole, like, that was girlhood to me. You know, is dressing up with your friends, is being silly and goofy and not caring about what other people think, not, you know, succumbing to the male gaze, so to speak. So I just think it was really, really integral. But maybe I just had like an overwhelming
No, I
response to it.
feel the exact same way. I think in the same way that kind of the cold shoulders and the switchblade, attitudes and kind of upside down world of teenage female friendships are shown in Breathe. You get this just beautiful, like raw moment of the heart of what it means to be a girl who has these other girls with her. You're just having fun and you're letting go. And I think my favorite moment of that scene is when the music fades just a little bit and you can hear them singing.
Yeah. Oh my
That
God.
I was just like, okay, I'm done. I've got
Okay.
chills. It's over. Like it was just magic. It was magic.
No,
It
I
really was.
totally agree.
It's like that moment when you're with your friends and you're in the car, and then when the big like crescendo hits,
Yeah.
and you lower the volume so you can hear each other, you're like out. That's how it was. Yeah, exactly. And I think it just kind of mirrored that, like the most euphoric part of being, friends with people, especially with other women.
And I mean, I think the relationships you share with your friends and, the relationships women share with other women when they're growing up is more integral than what you have with a boyfriend or whatever, or
Oh,
girlfriend, so to speak,
definitely.
or whatever romantic partner you have. I think in your teenage years, you're most transformative when you're with your friends, and that speaks volume to like who you end up becoming and who you grow into. And I just, yeah, so to see this easygoing moment where she's not worried about her brother, she's not worried about her home life, she's not worried about dating anybody, it was just thrilling and it was kind of relaxing, and all of a sudden you're just totally caught up in it. So that to me had me with the film. Like after that, I was like, I don't give a shit what happens now. Like I'm so sold. But obviously, one of the big selling points of Girlhood is the relationship she develops with these girls and how it enables her to kind of become stronger. So I'm interested in talking to that about that, opposed to Breathe, where Charlie's friendship with Sarah kind of it blocks her from social situations. It enables. I mean, it incapacitates her. I'm sorry, I can't say words longer than two syllables. But yeah, so I just think it's an interesting juxtaposition. Oh my god.
It's all
I
right.
think
It's Friday
I'm
night.
so
It's a Friday
tired.
night.
I'm working, but I think it's an odd comparison. See, that's the word I should have gone with. Just to see those two female friendships and see how one is really, really toxic and one, helped her grow out of herself.
I think that
Gabby, take it away. Somebody take it away.
Yeah, so I mean, I agree with you there. I think what's kind of like funny and ironic is that in Girlhood, she really didn't didn't care about those girls until she saw all the boys walking toward them. And then she's like, "Oh, wait a minute. I'm gonna walk back with them." And it's kind of interesting how she started out like that, and she sort of it was actually, those girls who changed her and made her believe that she can make her own decisions and kind of take control of her own life. So I thought that was kind of, interesting at the end, and kind of touch back on what you said of it not being like the traditional coming of age story where, I mean, you see like a lot of girls like that, they're like, oh, they go to school and they graduate or they get the perfect job or they, find a guy and blah blah blah, and that's they did it. With her, it's not like that at all. With her, it's just like that final scene just stayed with
It's
me.
rough.
Mhm.
I mean, it's rough, but it's empowering too because she's in a tough place, but she's powering through it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that takes so much to do. And I was just like totally blown away by her in that moment.
I think it kind of touches on what we've talked about before with the namesake and the idea that a coming of age moment isn't like a defined thing. Coming of age and becoming yourself, it's something that you develop with and you grow with over time. And like for her, for that character, that was a defining moment. Even if it was something so simple as deciding, will she go home? Will she not? Like, what does she do next? And I think that's what's so interesting about Girlhood is the fact that, we aren't given the easy answers about where she ends up at the end of the story, but we know that she's assertive enough to make her own choice. So I think that's really interesting. And that was a good point you brought up. I didn't even think about that and the fact like how it ends is really assertive.
Yeah.
Um,
Because you see her break down, and the next moment you see her just looking like head up, head held high, and just, I'm gonna get through this. And that's
Exactly.
literally like my entire teenage experience.
Mine was more like just ducking down.
so was mine.
Crying and then just being like, okay, I'm gonna get over myself and move on. But yeah,
That's an amazing thing to have as a teen. Like
People
that's
don't get
quite
that for a couple
evolved.
years.
Oh my god.
but yeah, but then in a total opposite end. I mean, I don't even know how to relate Breathe in that way to Girlhood, because in the end, I mean, should we spoil? I mean,
Spoiler alert, this is a book too, so like I'll put it in the little
when
message.
she kills her, I mean, I felt like so much relief when she did that, and even though it was so wrong. And it's
Yeah.
just because you were just feeling so bad for this character. I mean, even though you knew that her obsession with this girl was just too much and there was something really wrong with that.
Well, it was like an abusive relationship,
It was, you
which
know.
made it even sicker. But
So, but like
yeah, it's
really,
completely different ending. They both took assertion of their life, but one in a positive way, one
and
less so.
yeah, and it's, I mean, they both end with like kind of like you don't know what's gonna happen to them next,
Yeah.
and I yeah, it just, I mean, like Alana was saying, Breed really captures that time in life when you're having issues with other girls, and it becomes an obsession in a way that like it bothers you, because I think women like are naturally like people pleasers. We want everyone to like us for the most part.
Yeah.
We're taught to be that way. And so, when other girls don't like us, we get all weird. And
We do.
Yeah,
yeah,
I feel like I look more for like the respect of other women
Other women,
than
exactly.
men. It's like men, it's like I don't like I could, like you're easy. Like I need to impress women. Like
You're
they're
fine.
hard to impress. It's like and it's kind of what we're taught. It's kind of because we've been taught to be competitive and a little on edge. But it's a lot of things. But yeah, I totally felt the pain of Charlie's character. And I think that's what's so interesting, though, is like, sure, there's not many comparison points, but I think it's interesting to see that both these girls go through really perilous moments in their lives, and both regarding friendships and how it shapes them, but just one is so much more for the worse.
I think the biggest link that I found between the two films, and it might be kind of an airy link, but there's this thread of acceptance, and in Girlhood, it's almost an accidental acceptance. She wasn't kind of looking for it, but then through her friendships with the other girls, she did. She found this acceptance, and she found a new identity. Like she even got a new name, really. There was this kind of stumbled upon acceptance, and then in Breathe, it was forced. It was you must be accepted, and projecting that onto another character. And I did feel that same kind of weird sense and like sixth sense of relief when she finally just
Smothered her.
just ended it, and it was kind of like discovery through this trauma, whereas in Girlhood it was discovery through trauma in a different way, through her own trauma, through recovery of struggles that she was facing. Um,
Yeah. No, I
endings,
agree.
very very different endings, but kind of different different perspectives that you could view it
Yeah.
from.
No, I totally agree. Um, Yeah, it's just like exactly. It's such different perspectives and it's such different cases that it's hard to draw the comparison. But like,
Yeah.
I get that, like that they are just
Hmm.
looking for a certain form of acceptance.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I definitely agree. To split off a little bit, and talk individually about each film, and we'll come back and bring them together at the end, obviously. But with Breathe, I thought like beyond the fact that we can kind of relate to this girl, or at least I could. I won't speak for others. Like maybe everybody else is a Sarah and I'm a Charlie, but I totally was a Charlie. And the sake that you get so caught up in a new friendship to the point where you're just kind of you adore them and you like their opinion matters so much. Beyond that fact of the film and like what was so enthralling about it, I thought it was really interesting how they handled the idea of abuse. Um, and the lead character, her mother has a history of abuse from her father. And I like, thinking about it that way and how it paved the way and how she reacted to abuse from Sarah by either taking it like she thought her mother did or lashing out at the end like her father did. And I was wondering if you think that, is her reaction reactionary? Like, is she relating to her mother in this sense, or is she relating to her father? Like, I thought that was really interesting kind of backstory for the character to have, the idea that she's lived with abuse before, so she deals with it and she bottles it up, and then at the end she just completely lashes out.
Mhm.
So I was wondering if you guys picked up on any themes, like the themes of abuse in the film as well.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely picked up on it right away.
Mhm.
I mean, just because you saw the way her parents were and how she really kind of just kept her head down and lived with it. She didn't really ever talk to her mom. I mean, the first person to ever like make a move towards trying to break her parents up was Sarah. So, after she told, confided with her about like kind of like, yeah, this is doing this because your parents. But I think that's a really interesting point you made about how is she more like her father, her mother, or her mother? Because I mean, at the end, she does lash out, where the mom is always kind of just not doing anything. She
Yeah.
kind of just continues to take it. She'll have these strong moments, but then she'll let him back in, and then she'll be like, oh, I'm done with him. And I mean, I think my impression was that she she kind of is like her mom in the way that she can succumb to this kind of abuse. And I think
Mhm.
she knew that. And I think that's why she lashed out because I think she didn't want to be like her mom. And she might have felt like the only way in that moment to end it was to end her friend.
Mhm.
I don't know what you think.
Yeah.
I saw it kind of similarly, in the way that her first instinct would be to take it, to take the abuse, and then it kind of became a conscious thing of, well, I should be taking it because that's what I've seen, and you know, and she's been conditioned to just think that that's kind of a new normal, and then definitely at the end, it was like this primal instinct of like, no, I'm not, I can't take this anymore, and the only way to not feel what I'm feeling and not be kind of a product of the abuse that I've seen in my life is to just end it the, not the cleanest, but the most permanent way possible.
Right.
Yeah, and you know what? Not to say that like there's a certain type of person who is like who is used to abuse, or who will fall victim to it. Anybody can be victimized by it, but I do think it's interesting that like she reacts the same way perhaps her parents would. But what I thought was really interesting, and now I think I'm digging too deep into it at this point, but when she ends up killing Sarah, it's not because of being manipulated. It's not because of the verbal abuse that she's had before. It's because Sarah laughs at her after she hits her. And that's a very demeaning, humiliating moment. And like it's through that humiliation that she ends up taking that final leap and killing her. And I think that's a really interesting point too. Like it's like why was it that moment that was the trigger? Not that we have to dissect that now, because maybe there's no like actual definitive reason. But I definitely think it's an interesting point. You know
That no, that definitely is
where
because I mean, I noticed she laughed, but I didn't really think about it until just now.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, I would feel very humiliated. I mean, and I think at that point in the film, I was just so done that I was like, I was just like, man, nothing was clicking. I was just like, this girl is just, oh my God,
evil.
I
She
just hate her.
is.
So did you two see Charlie from beginning to end as strictly a victim, or do you think ever that she maybe did more per point of view of Sarah? I definitely felt she was a victim all the way through, but I know there's people who might be like, oh well, maybe Sarah had some honesty in that ending moment.
I agree with you. I think that throughout the film it was hard to watch Charlie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, I definitely think Charlie was a victim throughout the whole thing. Um, I with Sarah, I think Sarah's a victim in her own right, and but she kind of finds a way. I think she doesn't want
She's
to be.
manipulative.
yeah, she doesn't want to feel victimized, so she manipulates other people to make herself feel better. And in the end, that turned her into an even worse victim of murder.
Yeah,
Of murder.
exactly.
The worst
No,
kind of victim you can be.
Really?
I know. Yikes. Um, so to switch it kind of abruptly back to Girlhood, though, because I definitely thought that was a defining moment, was like the ending. It was definitive of those two characters, her Breathe. But for Girlhood, one of the most definitive moments to me was when um, the lead character had sex with her boyfriend, and it is so female gaze heavy that it was almost shocking just because we're not used to it. You know, we're not used to seeing the female being assertive and powerful in that moment where she's like, this is what I want and you're going to do it, you know? So I thought that was really interesting. And, you know, it's her like losing her virginity, whatever. And I don't think scenes like that are usually treated like that in any film, specifically coming of age film, where it's usually just about the guy. So I was curious if you guys also like if that stuck out to you, or if maybe it was just me being like, well then, you know, here we go. But I don't know.
I no, it was probably the most surprising part of the movie. I mean, it really was. And it's sad that it is because, I mean, it shouldn't be a big deal for a woman to dictate, a guy, especially when it's her first time and in the culture she grew up in as well.
Yeah.
But
Well, it's
she's just
also
so,
how it's shot too, you
yeah, that
know.
too. I mean, and when she's like, turn around, I was like, damn.
I know that is some self confidence,
I
dude.
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. But we need more of that. We need more of it being from the female perspective, and because that's a reality that we do have. It's not all
Yeah.
just from a male's perspective. Situations like that. It's not all controlled by men.
Yeah, no, I agree. And like, but what I thought was also interesting was this idea that she was feeling so dominant, you know, like she was feeling like she was riding a high almost. Like that was her finally kind of feeling so comfortable with herself and her own sexuality and who she was as a woman. And I just thought it spoke volumes to like her development. Like it kind of can be thrown away, you know, as a like, oh, that's female gazy, like that's weird. It can kind of be thrown away just as like a shock moment almost, but it's not. It's like really definitive of who she is, and that's what made it so interesting to me because it's also ultimately what gets her in so much, like gets her into that big conflict with her brother and him calling her a slut and things like that. So yeah, I thought it was a big moment, and I thought it was a daring moment for the film.
Definitely.
And I kind of like that even despite all the kind of the outcome of it, she never seemed to really regret it. And
Exactly.
I think that's important because she had this, big powerful moment for herself. I mean, she was laying in bed and she's like, you know what? I'm gonna go see him. And I mean, that's just that in itself, and that the rest of the scene is fantastic. And the fact that as despite kind of having to be estranged from her family and her friends, she still didn't regret that choice. I mean, she was sad about what happened, but not necessarily. It didn't seem like she would take it back.
Yeah. No, I agree. Um, So I'm thinking about some of our questions, but I think we kind of covered a lot of the big ones. I wanted to get to Gabby's, which was that it's worth pointing out that these are both French films and that there seems to be a feminist film wave coming out of France lately. Um, many of the new female directors are coming from there. So, we can talk about that in the sense like, have you been noticing it? But also, you know, how do these French films compare to the stories of young women in Hollywood that are being produced? We're not seeing Girlhood and Breathe being produced by Hollywood directors. They're coming out of foreign landscapes. Even last year's Mustang, which was a Turkish and French film, was, unabashedly feminist. And it was, by the way, amazing and is on Netflix and is the best movie of the last couple of years. So everybody should go see it. But even that film, it's a foreign film and it's more daring than Hollywood pictures might be. So, have you guys noticed this trend? Obviously, Gabby, you did since it's your question.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of ended these two films and I'm like, oh, I just watched two French films. Like, it hit me. I was like, because, I mean, I don't even think you consciously picked them because they were both French. You had watched them
No.
and felt like the tones were like, similar and kind of would be a good talk. But yeah, I just thought it's kind of interesting that it's these two films. They're both French, and then I thought of Mustang, which is from a French
Yeah.
director, and I was just like, there is something going on here, and it's great.
Yeah,
Um,
it's so interesting that some of the most feminist films, I guess, if we're gonna, talking about it pretty frankly,
yeah.
they're coming from foreign filmmakers. And that's great because it gives us films like this, but it's also disappointing because we're like, where the fuck are the films here?
Yeah, I mean, I think Hollywood is Hollywood,
Yeah,
and
go to hell.
I mean, the films we get here about young women and friendships, I mean, they're very like, I think Sex and the City set the standard for a lot of them, which,
For good and bad,
yeah, I
you
mean,
know.
it has its, I mean, Sex and the City has its redeeming moments, but then there's some stuff that's just like, really, but yeah,
Yeah.
so I just thought it was kind of like an interesting thing, and I was just wondering, I mean, if you knew of any filmmakers that were trying to kind of emulate the same that, well, maybe not that, but maybe I'm just trying to say that I just think it's interesting that this is something that's happening abroad and
Yeah, well,
not
because
happening
even
here.
look at films like Wajda from a couple years ago, which was a Saudi Arabian film, and it was the first film directed by a woman there. And that was super feminist in the way it was depicted. And then there's A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night by Anna Lily Emapour. That's, I believe, an Iranian film. And again, the themes of female empowerment are incredibly strong. And I don't know if it is that they have more freedom in a weird sense because it's not Hollywood. But when I think of, you know, films based on the friendship between women, or at least based solely on the female experience, I think of things like Bend It Like Beckham, which I still think was a British production. I don't know if that was like strictly Hollywood. And then there was a smaller film that's out on Netflix now called The Sisterhood of the Night. That was also great. There was The Falling last year with Maisie Williams that would have also traumatized you guys, but is really amazing. But that's also another British film. So I just, I feel like I would gravitate to films about female friendship, because that's what I grew up with. Everybody goes to see films. Like, I think people who are fans of films should go and see everything. I think they should experience all that cinema has to offer, but people definitely gravitate towards films that they can relate to. And there's an enormous population of women who would love to see a film about them and would love to see films about female experience. And I think that's what Girlhood and Breathe, despite being rather heightened, both directions of like kind of trauma or relating to trauma. But I think that's why people kind of tap into them because we can watch Breathe and we can see the Charlie character and we can be like, we relate to her. This is so painful, but we relate. And I think that Hollywood just needs to be a little bit more daring with it because foreign film is overcoming them really fast.
Definitely. And just thinking about any kind of American films that focus on female friendships, the only one that instantly comes to mind, without having to do a lot of digging, is Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants. But
Oh
that
yeah,
but that was directed by a man.
exactly.
So
Yeah.
we're not getting any of this organic kind of, raw stuff that we see in foreign films, which is a shame because they're fantastic. They're really, really great.
Yeah, and all the ones I mentioned were directed by women, which is
Mhm.
good, and I'm like thrilled that I said
Yeah.
that. Otherwise, I would have been really disappointed. But again, Sisterhood of the Night is the only American-based one, I believe.
Mhm.
So, and that's little, and it got shit on by critics, and it's not bad. Is it kind of a little goofy in parts? Yeah, but it's really powerful too in its own kind of quiet way. I'd recommend seeing it to you guys. I think people who are looking for this kind of film should go and watch it. But yeah, it is just really disappointing because, you know, the male coming of age story is a dime a dozen. Do I still go watch them? Yes, and I love 90% of them because typically they're done really well, and no matter what, you can relate to the coming of age experience. But I just think they're missing a market almost, and not doing films about the the bonds between women. I think that could be really interesting if they explored it well, and it wasn't just like a Sex and the City movie.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think that's a really good point, actually, Gabby.
No, I was gonna say I think it would genuinely like help with society be more have more empathy towards different kinds of people.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Because I'm
Like
always like
people.
saying, no,
Hmm.
no, I'm always like saying that people learn from movies, and
Mm-hmm.
whether big or small, and if they see something, they're gonna like react to it and understand it better. And if you're just gonna keep kind of serving the same thing repackaged in different ways, I mean, no one's gonna learn anything. No one's gonna be any different.
No, I agree, and that's what I was to say is that like people sometimes dismiss movies as not being as as not being as impactful as they actually are. But, cinema can inform how we relate to humans, and other human beings. And I think, like you said, just to essentially repeat it verbatim, is that, if you see different worldviews, if you see different perspectives, you're usually going to walk out with a little bit more empathy towards that situation. And I think that's important. It's the same thing with reading stories. Any kind of storytelling is a way to relate to another human being. And I just think, you know, I think you watch Girlhood and you watch Breathe and you identify with it, or you understand it a little bit differently. Like I think I was talking to my boyfriend before I did this, and he was like, I really appreciate Girlhood, but I thought that was a film for a female experience. But he could like admit it, and he got something from it. So I just think, yeah, essentially, I agree with everything he said. But
So
yeah,
do
I think it's a
I.
really interesting conversation to have with people. But to wrap up the film discussion specifically, I'm going to go to some kind of side comments at the end, just so I don't forget them. But was there anything else that stuck out to you in Breathe and Girlhood, despite the unearthing of trauma that Breathe induced?
The only thing I
No.
wanted to touch on, we already touched on, was the big death.
Oh God, yeah.
So I'm glad we did get to talk about that. Spoiler, you know. Uh,
Well, have you guys read anything about the book it's based on?
no.
No, I have
Because
the
in the
book.
oh,
I'm
you
looking
did?
at it right now, but I didn't read it.
Ah, because in the book she's writing about what happened from her jail cell.
Oh,
Wow.
So we kind of
okay.
get like like it's a little more
Some more
clear.
context.
Yeah, I know at the end because you could kind of be like, well, maybe she just knocked her
Yeah.
out.
No, I thought her mom would like help her hide the body or something.
I hope the mom was a pal about that. Like, one for the team. But yeah, that ending, I think I actually went like, holy shit,
I was
aloud.
I was not expecting it, but I was kind of, in a weird way, kind of glad it happened.
I know, it was cathartic.
It really was.
Finally, we're
But like,
free.
it was like the final act didn't surprise me as much as the initial, like when she like slammed her head down.
Yeah.
Like that freaked me out. Like,
Mhm.
because I've been like so entranced with it the whole time.
Yeah.
That like sent me like out of my seat.
It was so disruptive. Like, just, you're like, what just happened?
Oh my god, like it came out of it, I mean,
Hmm.
I guess it's like the whole idea is that it's like a really slow build and that she's not like she's feeling constricted and she can't breathe around her and whatever. And this is her big exhale. It's terrible.
She
But it's her
literally,
moment where she takes her like future into her own hands.
she can't breathe, and then she takes her breath from her. Like, finally, like, you need to
Oh
stop
my
so
god.
that I can actually finally breathe.
Hmm.
That's an amazing way to put that. I'm
That's
really
yeah.
jealous you just put it that way. That was really good. But yeah. No, I thought it was God, it was such a hard movie to watch. I'm sorry I inflicted it on you guys, but again,
It's
like
all
I said,
right.
it's a girlhood too, and you guys like the one next month is gonna be so much worse. But I'll get to that in a second though. But Gabby, was there anything else you were like, you know, you really wanted to touch upon about either of the films?
No, I think we covered everything.
No, we do.
Yeah.
It's because we do some of these podcasts. Gabby, you might know, obviously, and some of them run like 2 hours long, 3 hours long, and it's just like, how have we found this much time to fill? But like with this, I don't know. It's like we just covered it so quickly that it makes me think I'm forgetting something, you know. So I'm trying to think, but no, I think we covered everything too. Maybe we just I'll write more notes next time, I guess. Um, but to fill out some more time, we wanted to like somehow, okay, I wanted to somehow inject this film naturally, and it's just not going to happen. But we do our opening question each month, kind of relating to what we're talking about, sometimes just for fun. And so this one had been the options had been the one that we talked about at the beginning of who would direct your coming of age film, but the other one had been if you could pick a fictional character to be your best friend, who would it be? And I think that was a fun one. So Alana, you seemed eager.
Yes, I instantly thought of kind of almost an unconventional character. I thought of Juno McGuff from Juno.
Oh my God, that is really good.
How she's very quirky and she's outspoken and she's loud, but she's so empathetic and sympathetic. And even though she's a pregnant 16-year-old, she knows what she stands for and at least to some extent who she is. And I think that her growth throughout the film is powerful, and I think that should be awesome to just have as a best friend.
Yeah, shoot the shit with.
Yeah. And then and if I didn't think I'd be slightly scared of her, have a healthy fear of her, Kat Stratford from 10 Things I Hate About You, I would love to be friends with her, but it's just in the back of my mind and be like, I'm so scared of you.
You know what? I feel like our underlying anger, me and that character, would actually relate really well. But I have another one. But yeah, no, I kind of just came up with mine off the top of my head because I had like been so focused on the film director one. But I'm choosing Leslie Knope.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna dive into the TV pool since you guys did, and like my initial reaction is something like Jon Snow, but that's not related to what we're talking about, and really it's just on a shallow "you're so pretty" level. But yeah, so Leslie Knope, I think, because I need to be topped up and like I need affection. And I feel like Leslie, loves her best friends and she's so positive and she's like a hard worker, and I don't know, I feel like having a Leslie Knope in my life would be a positive influence.
Definitely.
Like with that, like even just listening to Amy Poehler's book, I just felt like a better person by the end of it.
I
So
have
feel like
I have her audiobook. It was just listening to it was the best experience.
yeah, I was just like beaming the entire time. I was like, you're so wonderful. I was like, everybody should be like you. So yeah, Leslie Knope. Gabby, did you think of one? I'm so bad I didn't think of
Okay, so when you first posed this question, I thought you meant a female character within the films we were talking about.
one. Oh, that makes it so much harder.
So
There's no one.
yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, that's why I picked the other. I was like, when you asked which questions were you gonna like the other one, because I don't know.
I was like, because God help me, neither of them.
But I guess like fictionally, I would pick Alana's director's choice, Mindy Kaling, or well, Mindy Lahiri from the Mindy Project.
Yeah.
She's like insane, but I love her. I mean,
Yeah.
she's such a fun friend, and some of the stuff she says is just so, like so ludicrous, but it just kills me. And I wish I had a friend like that, because I have more of like a serious personality, and so I think I need
Yeah.
more lighthearted people in my life.
Exactly. I need positive people, so I can.
If I could
um,
If I could add just one more really quickly, since you guys both did talk about TV, and I guess I understood the question as a teenage character you would want to be your best friend.
I mean, I guess that makes more sense. Clearly, I did not put any parameters on this question.
But But my first thought was Peggy Olson from Mad Men. Mad
Oh,
Men's my favorite show, and she is my favorite female character of all time. So Peggy Olson, number one.
I thought you were gonna say Agent Carter, like Peggy, like
Oh yeah.
and I was like thrilled because all of a sudden I was like, me too. But can I just choose Haley Atwell? She'd be my best friend.
It's
So
an
clearly,
acceptable answer.
yeah, there's so many people. Let's just shun the rest and bring new ones in, all fictional. But yeah. So I thought so. If you guys, lovely listeners, if you're listening, like have your own pick for who you would choose to be your fictional BFF, make sure to tweet it at us or send us a note or in any way, shape, or form that you want to communicate with us because that would be grand. Um, but otherwise, I think we're all set with this episode. I think people should go watch Breathe. I think everybody should go watch Girlhood. I think now I would say watch Breathe, then Girlhood, so you can go to bed without like panicking. Did not think about it in that way. So I'll get to what we're covering next month, but I do want to make a note because obviously we have a back to school theme, both the young folks and in general, although I think Alana, you might be the only one going back to school.
Yeah.
Okay,
grad school student.
well that's like yeah, no. So so you might be the only one who is relating in this sense, but we wanted to keep it in the theme of like school, college, whatever, and we were thinking like let's do a piece on inspirational female professors or teachers in film directed by women. There are none. Like maybe there's a bit role in an education, but even when we looked past female directed films, still none. And it's kind of shocking, but we wanted to make sure we let you know that we tried. And I mean, I know we tweeted it out, but I still felt like we got nothing substantial. Like there's no film that was about that relationship.
Yeah, I mean there were people like kind of responding with like a film and then a question mark at the end, like they weren't even sure if it.
Exactly. And it was like really nice that they sent us like I have a whole new list of films I need to go watch that I didn't recognize, but I was just like, geez. So instead, we're gonna go with Gabby's idea. Both of these were Gabby's, but this one is the one that I'm kind of anxious about. We're going to be doing subversive motherhood in film. So clearly, we're going to be watching We Need to Talk About Kevin. I have not seen this film.
I have not
It'll
seen it
be,
either.
I believe it's really okay. We'll be in this together. Gabby has seen it and is going to be, ruling over us about this. But
I saw it
I've
like
heard
3 times. I have problems. You'll be like, how
how.
did you? Yeah, exactly. You're gonna be like, how? And I'm like, I don't know, but I did.
Oh my God. God, it's directed by Lynn Shelton, and I think it's actually my first Lynn Shelton movie.
Actually, it's Lynn Ramsey.
Lynn Ramsey, sorry. Yeah, sorry about that.
Wrong Lynn. It's okay.
What one am I thinking of?
Lynn Shelton did My Sister's Sister, I think.
Oh, yeah. No, Your Sister's Sister.
Your
My
Sister's
bad.
Sister, and then she
Very
did
different
one
directors.
with Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
Enough said. No,
Was that her?
that was Nicole Holofcener.
Oh yeah, sorry. See, getting old.
We're really good. I didn't expect there to be two Lynn's off the top of my head, but Lynn Ramsey, and I do think it's the first film I've seen by her, which also makes me a bad female film critic. But I'll get to it. I'm going to watch it this month. Alana's going to watch it this month. We're going to be stressed out, and it should be great. We might get to talk a little bit more about just in general the subversive motherhood in films. People were suggesting Tallulah, which just came out, and that's an interesting point of view. So I think it can be a great discussion. It's a little weird for a September one, but it's kind of what we had. Again, because we use this teenage friendships at the end of August. But we have a couple of exciting things coming up for film discussions too. Like in October, we're going to kind of touch on horror a little, because I think we're all a little squeamish about horror.
A little bit, yeah.
So we're going to do like baby step horror.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think We Need to Talk About Kevin is a bit like a horror film.
Well, I was going to say, actually, this movie it's stressing me out as much.
It's going to like be a good lead up to our October episode.
The Babadook? No, I won't make us watch that. I'm too scared.
I'm actually a big baby. Like,
no, me too.
I can deal with psychological horror, which is pretty much what We Need to Talk About Kevin is, but I cannot handle like jump scares or like
No, yeah, exactly.
suspense with like like even like Stranger Things. I was like hiding under the blanket. I'm obsessed.
Well, I think the ideas that I have for that one for October, one, we have time to build up to it, but two, I think they're relatively easy. One of them I've seen, one of them I haven't, and I thought it'd be fun for all of us to finally watch, like, besides how to make an American quilt. Um, damn it, how to, like, I think it'd be great for us to watch another one that none of us have seen. So, but yeah, for September, people who have not seen Lynn Ramsey's We Need to Talk About Kevin, you should watch it. Join in with us in the discussion. I think, it's a cool little thing that we're doing. From Lauren, what a jackass move. But we're now, I believe, on iTunes,
Yes.
right? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Making sure I got the email for that and not another one. But yeah, we're on iTunes now, so check us out there. Rate, review, tell us what we're not very good at. Me getting the names of directors, right? Be top of the list because I'm an asshole for that. But tell us what we're good at too, like our shining personalities. And we'll be back next month. Make sure to check us out at PYF Official on Twitter. And Alana and Gabby, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Gabrielle Adele.
You can find me on Twitter at Lane Not Lon.
And I'm at Allison AJ. And thank you again so much for joining us for our episode 4 of Finding Her Voice. And we'll be back next month in fall because time's going by quick. Have a good one, you guys. Bye.
Bye.